Hi everybody, welcome to the PrepWell Academy tutorial, where we take a little test drive of the program so you get a feel for what's inside and so that you can hit the ground running. Now I'm going to use a fictitious email and password to get us rolling here. And you can see the first place we land is what's called your locker. This is the place that collects all of the weekly lessons year after year after year. And you can tell that this senior right here has had the benefit of being enrolled in PrepWell Academy for the last 3 years. So they're going to have access to all the prior lessons if they like, which is nice. Now, if you're just starting with PrepWell Academy, you may just have this one tile that says senior, which is great also. Now, for our purposes, we're going to look at senior year, the basic plan. Now, yours might say basic plus athlete or basic plus military ROTC or the bundle plan. Whatever you're enrolled in is what it's going to say here. But again, for our purposes, we're going to stick with the basic plan to walk our way through it. So I'm going to hit view lessons to see what we've got in store. Once again, we have every month, we have a different lesson that's posted. August, we have our final week in August where we welcome everybody to the Academy. September, we have 4 lessons. October, the same. And November, 3 lessons. Now, I can deduce by having 3 lessons here that this student is a senior and they're somewhere in the middle of the 3rd week of November. And the reason I know that is because we only drop 1 lesson per week. We don't have all the lessons written out there because we don't want to overwhelm people. We don't want people to be tempted to jump ahead. We only want you to concentrate on one digestible task or concept at a time. So presumably in a couple days, the 4th week in November's lesson will drop here, and then December and so on and so forth. Now, as we go to the top here, this is what we call the progress bar. It gives you and your parents a real quick idea of how up to date you are with the lessons. Now, this person's doing great. They've got 11 out of 12 lessons completed. That's fantastic. Because as you'll see in a second, sometimes there might be a lesson that's hard to get to in a particular week. Maybe there's some logistics or scheduling an interview or completing an application or whatever the case may be. So 11 out of 12 is pretty good. And as I run down here, you'll note these green check marks. This shows that the lesson has been completed. And as I get to the bottom here, you see 1 here is not, letters of recommendation. So there's probably still some work to do here, but it gives you a good visual and it allows you to go back in time and make sure you're cleaning up anything that you missed. Let's go into this first lesson at the end of August, just to show you the format. Pretty much everyone's going to be the same. There's going to be a video of me presenting the material up top, and then I'm amplifying the information down below. In this particular case, welcoming you to PrepWell Academy, who Phil Black is, how the Academy works, what you should expect, how much time you should commit, those types of things, whether you want to connect with me on socially. And then sometimes over here, there'll be a little box here that says there's something downloadable. Maybe it's a PDF, maybe it's a spreadsheet, maybe it's an activity. There happens to not be one in this particular case, but you can keep an eye out for it in some of the other ones. So now as I scroll down, let's go into September, what you should focus on this year. So once again, I'm giving my bid up top and trying to help you really focus on what to look after. The big thing this week is organization. Man, there's a lot to get organized in your senior year. Most of them are written here. Do you have to take more standardized tests? How's your target list of schools going? Are you requesting and proofreading that transcript? Have you downloaded that spreadsheet yet to track all the important deadlines and requirements? All that stuff needs to be done this week, and I help you out with that. Now, if we scroll down a little bit more, refining your target list of schools. This is an important one. If you're still at 20 or 25 schools, that's too many, and we have to whittle that down to a more reasonable target list. Let's call it 10 or maybe 12. Now, I have my own proprietary formula that I help you use that I think really works out. It uses the weighted average of 5 different factors in how to select colleges, and it really helps you distill and get down to the core of what you're really looking for in a college. So I hope you enjoy that. Next one, tests, letters, and essays. Standardized tests, do you have to take any more? Letters of recommendation, are you on top of them? Do the teachers know when they're due? How are those essays are doing? I make sure that you're staying on target there. Now, should you apply early? This is the end of September. And if you're applying early, you probably know by now that there are a lot of different options. And some of them have ramifications that you're going to want to know about. So for instance, early decision, we talk about all that. Early action, single choice early action, rolling admissions, regular decision. And there are some things that are restrictive. There are some things that are great and flexible and very popular. There are other strategies that you want to use to really make the most out of this, because there are a lot of benefits of applying early, but you just want to know which type of early you want to go for. So my goal by the end of this is that you have a really clear picture about where you're going, should you apply early or not, and what some of the pros and the cons. And your parents should get involved in this also, because some of the things have to do with finances. Let me pop back out. Filling out your applications, some do's and don'ts. We talk about some things that really jam kids up and really are snafus at the end of the application. You want to get those done early on. We talk all about those. Financial aid for parents. This is an important one. The FAFSA, the free online form that your parents will likely fill out, financial aid form, it starts opening in January. So this is a way to prime the pump, make sure that you're teed up and your parents are teed up to gather all the information and make sure they're ready in January, because the sooner you submit that application, the better. Scheduling early admissions interviews. Let's stick with that because we're on an early admissions kick here. If you want to demonstrate a high level of interest, which is a good idea when you're applying early, it's often a good idea to schedule an interview. And to do that, you have to really nail the interview. You can't request an interview and then be terrible at it, because it's not going to work for you. So I go through all types of pre-interview prep, how to call and schedule, how to learn everything about the school, how to be prepared with good questions, and on and on and on, what you should be prepared to answer from the interviewer. And then once you arrive, how do you approach them? What do you say to them? How do you address them? What's your wardrobe like? How early should you get there? What's your body language like? Should you bring anything? Should you offer anything? Should you eat anything? All those types of things we go over. And then interacting with the interviewer. How do you say enough but don't be too overeager? How do you draw a little bit out from them so you're establishing a connection with them and some camaraderie with them? How do you do that effectively? We go through all that stuff. This is going to be a very important piece, particularly for applying early. Let's see. Early round deadline next week. November 1st is the early application deadline. So I'm giving you a very stark reminder that everything needs to be done. And we go over, make sure the supplemental essays are done, the recommendations are done, the transcripts are proofread, and all of that. Letters of recommendation, once again, a reminder and an idea on how to get those letters, how to tactfully ask those teachers to get them done in a timely fashion, understanding that they're pressured to do a lot of them. We talk about that. College interview prep. This is similar to the other one, except this is for regular decision students. The one a couple weeks ago was for those early admittance students. This is for the people who are applying regular. They need to get ready for interviews as well. And lastly, college essays. Once again, this is an extremely important way for you to differentiate yourself from other students, particularly at the higher end, highly selective schools, because oftentimes everybody looks great. And then they refer back to the college essays as a tiebreaker. And you may not, with a great essay, you may not launch way past people with way better credentials than you. But if it's a 50-50, a great college essay can get you over the hump. And by the way, a crappy senior essay can lob you out of contention as well. So we talk about things to avoid. We talk about things to focus on, how to be unique. How can you write an essay that no one else could have written? And we talk about how to think about that by brainstorming. I like to tell people that we start with story first. Don't worry about the questions. Don't worry about the prompts. I want you to do an audit of your life and figure out what your most powerful stories are, where the most influence in your life was. Gather and brainstorm and have a good long list of those. Then start looking at the questions. Here are some sample questions that I'd like you to think about and reflect on and start coming up with draft answers to. And then, of course, a whole bunch of steps to make sure that you absolutely crush this essay. Drafting and tweaking and finding a trusted advisor to review it and then getting back to work on it. Eventually, you're finalizing, proofreading, scrubbing, and getting ready for publishing. And last but not least, down here, there's a little section where we can put a comment, a question. Maybe you want to clarify something. I might ask you to share something down there with the community, something about your best essay idea or a brainstorming idea or what you're going to do this summer or any host of questions in order to get people communicating, inspiring people, giving people ideas. The more the community interacts, the better. And then lastly, at the bottom, we have, of course, you can link up with me as you see fit, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Any way that is best for you to communicate works for me. And I hope this has been helpful. That wraps up the tutorial. I hope you feel a little bit more oriented to the website. And remember, if you're joining PrepWell Academy a little bit later into the school year, maybe it's not August or September, make sure you go back and review the prior lessons in a timely fashion so that you don't miss any critical milestones or deadlines, especially in senior year. So welcome to PrepWell Academy. I'm super glad to have you on board and can't wait to get started.